Okay, students, so you should have received a homeworks or an assignment page in Blackboard. And so the first thing you want to do in your paper is to draw the shape that we're going to be rendering. So today we're going to be focusing on the curved surface and then also the sphere. So you can see here that I've drawn the curved surface. So if you look at it, it's easier to see in the second image. You've got a really straight side here, but as it starts to bend away from you, it goes down to more of a point. So I know that you want it to look kind of more like this, but as you're learning in design drawing about perspective, it actually is it's gonna look a little more like this. So it doesn't have to be perfect. You can see that I've got some guidelines back there, and then I just kind of drew over it a little bit darker once I got the shape that I wanted. So one of the most important things in rendering class that you're gonna hear me say over and over every week is talking about your lights and your darks. So whatever is closest to your light source is going to be the lightest area in your rendering. So if you've got something that, if we're looking at it in side view, and it is bending like this is the tallest, here's my sunshine. This is the tallest point of that curve. So this is going to be the lightest area. And then as it starts to move around, it's going to get darker. So this bend essentially is the same as this, but we're seeing it in perspective. So here is going to be the lightest area of my rendering, and then it's going to start to bend away and get darker. So what I'm going to do, you can use any color that you want. I don't have a lot of color choices at home, so I'm going to be using just a neutral, but I'm going to start by putting some color in and just filling in the space. Knowing that this is going to be lighter, I'm not going to be as heavy, but right now I'm just trying to fill in the space and get a nice light covering of color over the whole thing so I can start lightening and darkening. So if you'll notice, I hold the pencil towards the end, and this allows me to not put too much pressure as if I'm writing. If I do this, it's going to get really waxy and it's harder to control. So I will, until I get into detail, I like to kind of hold it from the back. And this just helps you, again, to keep it kind of light and feathery. So once you've done your base coat, then you need to start to think about where it's starting to bend. So I'm using these three colors, and I'm going to go one step darker now, and I'm going to turn my paper a little bit. I'm going to start to define, again, this is the area where it's lightest. So I'm going to start to define where that bend happens and the darkness starts, which is going to be approximately here and here. So I'm just giving myself some guidelines really at this point, that in between these two lines, this is going to, excuse me, this is going to be my lighter area. I'm going to pull that over a little bit so it's a little more consistent. There we go. And then I'm going to pull that down towards the end. And again, I'm holding my pencil towards the end so that I don't put too much pressure on the color. So I'm picking up on that line and pulling it back. Now I'm using 3 different pencils to get this shading in. You can use one pencil and just change your application each time. But sometimes this is a little bit easier, especially on the first exercise. So I'm going to take my darkest pencil now and start to fill in where it's the furthest, the bend is the furthest from the light. So I'm just going to slowly build up the color on the ends until I get the darkness that I want. And you can see that I'm just slowly going back and forth building that color. You can't see any pencil lines because I'm holding my pencil at the end, but I'm just slowly building up. And I have to turn my paper to like fit the way my hand works. So if that's more comfortable for you, then you can certainly do that as well. But you can see it's just a really light pressure. I'm building up real slow. I'm not pushing down. I'm just letting it pick up a little bit more color each time I go across. As I start to get the color where I want it, I'm going to take my pencil and kind of darken around the edges just a little bit. To really get that depth that I'm looking for. I'm going to do the same thing on this end. You don't always have to have your pencil go in the same direction. So a lot of times if I start to see pencil lines going horizontally or vertically, I'll just kind of change my pencil lead to go the other direction. It's called cross hatching. That helps to keep it a little bit smoother. And I can really work on this for a long time. I'm trying to go a little bit quickly, just so that I can talk to you guys and get you started. So I'm going to go back to my medium color. And I'm going to go over the dark area. And what I'm trying to do now is to smooth the two so that you don't see that really harsh line between the colors. I'm going back to my darker one because I feel like it still needs to be darker down here. So I'm really trying to add some darkness and depth now. And I think I'm even going to pull in a little bit of my 90% warm gray and do a really fine coating just here at the very end. Just to really emphasize that that's further away than anything else. And again, you can use colors. Sometimes colors are easier to blend, meaning like reds and blues and greens. So here's where we're at right now. Next, I'm going to take my white and I'm going to start to blend in between the two. So you can see it's kind of picking up a little bit of that color and it's smoothing it out between the two surfaces. And I'm going to use that to blend off my color all the way down. I don't want this to look so harsh that it looks like I didn't add color, which is exactly what we did in the beginning. So you want to make sure that you really kind of blend that over so that it starts to it really starts to read as something that's closer, but it's part of. And I'm just going to go back at the end and kind of darken these further stereos. So at the end, this is kind of what it'll look like for you. Again, you just want it to look like a piece that is bending. And the darker you go on the ends here and here, the more, and the lighter you go here, the more contrast that's shown, the more that's going to read the way you want it to. So I'm going to go ahead and upload this so that you can be watching the video, and then we'll discuss before you get started. Thanks.